Hi all, I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And today we're going to be focusing on one of the most important partners that the City of San Angelo has here in our community. I'm speaking of Howard College. And if you've never been to the Howard College campus, we want to give you a little look. Take a look at this. So we want to thank Howard College's Director of Marketing and Outreach, Brandon Whitford, the Emmy Award-winning Brandon Whitford, for that video. And here to talk about Howard College and its partnership with the city is Jamie Rainey. Jamie is the Workforce and Community Development Officer for Howard College and a former member of our City Council. Jamie, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Anthony, for the invitation. Really appreciate it.
Now, the city and Howard College certainly view one another as partners. Why is it important to our community, in your mind, that we work together?
Well, if you will pull up the website for the City of San Angelo Development Corporation and you look at their mission and their vision, it really ties to the same thing for Howard College. We're about community, we're about development, we're about business development. And so what we help with, the city is promoting the city and quality of life and a strong business community. What do you need for a strong business community? Strong employees. We're a career technical education type of institution, and so we're partnering to bring the education to the potential workers in this community, and that relationship works perfectly. We build on each other.
And so when you talk about the Development Corporation, you're talking about the city's economic development arm, and so a lot of these things that we're going to be talking about now is really a partnership between our economic development arm, the City of San Angelo Development Corporation, and Howard College. And one of the big success stories that has come from that partnership has been the launch of a new program on your campus to help students earn nursing degrees. I want you to talk a little bit about how that came about.
Well, we're a community college, so we're totally always seeking input from the community about what are the needs, what are the short-term training needs, what are the long-term training needs. And we have specialized in health professions programs, from surg tech, radiology, LVN program, a long time. And we knew from our partners and for all of our clinical sites that there's a huge need for RNs. We're not getting enough RNs, and we're going to have a huge shortage. So we'd looked at that. It's expensive to start a program, so we looked at it and we're like, we really, really want to add it, but it's going to take some partners to help us make this work. So really our workforce board and our economic development arm of the city, those two folks, the two executive directors got together. We met with Shannon, they met with San Angelo Community Medical Center, and really talked about what is that long-term need, and would you financially help start a program? Because our funding is really two streams mainly, and that's tuition and fees from the students, and then state funding, and that comes in the form of two kinds. That is for the contact hours or the seat hours, that someone's taken a program. And then the other part is success points. So that means you get funding for when that person graduates. That considers a success point. So all of this funding comes way after the fact. So we don't have startup money to start programs because in St. Angelo, we're not a taxing entity. So those really are our funding streams. So when we're going, we want to do this program, but it's interesting to start a health professions program. The nursing program, the RN program especially, you have to go before the Board of Nursing, Texas Board of Nursing, to get that approved. You have to hire a program director a minimum of 6 months prior to your submission to them of your plan for your program. So you've got a person you're already paying for. And then when you go before the board then for the hearing for your proposal, you need to have all of your faculty hired. So you've got almost a year's time in there total that you're paying for all of this, and yet there's no revenue coming in. So this is where the two executive directors between the workforce board and the city really creatively came up with, I think there's this grant at the Texas Workforce Commission that we can write for. It's for high demand jobs. So it's jobs that are growing, and definitely nursing falls in the high demand jobs. And so our workforce executive director wrote a grant to TWC. That grant, though, has to be matched by some sort of economic development partner. And it could have been the chamber, it could have been different things, but the most logical one really was our City of St. Angelo Development Corporation.
Because they have half-cent sales tax dollars at their disposal.
Absolutely. And so it would be a matching thing. So if the workforce board would get the grant, then the city would match those dollars, and that would help us hire the program director, get the program developed, get it submitted, go to Austin to actually request the program. So it was awesome. They both wrote the grants, but it wasn't going to stop there. You were going to need some additional funds, especially the year you're starting up and you're having students. So both hospitals committed to $20,000 a year for 2 years. And we actually have a Howard College St. Angelo Foundation that was started back in the 90s by local businessmen that wanted to see career technical education grow here. And our foundation matched the $20,000 for 2 years with the hospitals. So all of those funds came together to make this happen. So it's truly a partnership. And those dollars allowed us to hire the program director. So we hired the program director actually in 2015. We went in front of the Board of Nursing in the summer of 2016. We were approved. And I have to tell you about that day. When you go to the Board of Nursing, I'd never been before. And I'd heard that it could be intimidating because there are a lot of very important people, very strong personalities, a very strong program, and they have so many responsibilities of overseeing quality programs. So it can be a little intimidating, especially if you've never been, and I'd never been. So we went, but what we did was, it was all of our partners that went with us. The mayor went, our county judge went, the chamber board president went, let me think who all's there. Pam Bradshaw, the chief nursing officer from Shannon, not only was she with us, but she actually was one of our speakers to the Board of Nursing. Because you have to show demand. If you can't really show the long-term demand, they don't want to create another program. And so we really had to show that, and Pam was one of our speakers. We had all of our faculty and staff. We even had our program director from our Big Spring campus there, and she is an extremely successful program, a very high pass rate, so is very favored. And so all of our staff there, Michelle Trubenstein, our Dean of Health Professions here, Marnita Gwynn, who's the program director for the RN program, everybody was there. We even had folks from COSA DC. We had Mike Buck from our workforce board. It was a huge group of people with us to present. So Pam Bradshaw started off that presentation with talking about the need. And I think you could see the look on people's faces as when she got to the point of saying, today, right now, Shannon needs 100 positions filled. And it was just like, oh my gosh, these are big numbers. So she had the information for our whole region, but then she could also say, just my institution alone needs this many positions today. So that really set the stage to go, you're right, you really do need it. Dr. Sparks, our president, of course, talked about we are very good at doing health professions programs. We have very high pass rates. We have a track record, and talking about our programs that we already have, and why we would be a good steward of this program. Marnita Gwynn talked about the whole program then, the details of what you're going to do. And something they did that was very different, and the Board of Nursing recognized that day, was our group, when she had got her faculty hired, they actually put a video together to show all the facilities here for where even the students going to do their hand washing. And so it was a wonderful video to show our facilities, what they have available, how the program would work. And in fact, the Board of Nursing commented on that day, saying that no other group had ever done that before. And they were thinking about making that a requirement. So we were like, oh, we're so proud of that. And that was our nursing faculty that developed that. So that day, they approved our program, and you might have heard the cheer all the way from Austin to San Angelo that day because we were thrilled. That was in July, and we were taking students in. By the time that was late in the week, by the next Monday, we already had 50 calls left on voicemail saying, through the weekend saying, I heard the program was approved, I want to get into the program, what do I do to get in the program? So we really had a long list of people that had been waiting, hoping that we would get the program. So contacts went out to all of those folks to come and apply. And of course, we had a lot more students apply than we could accept. Our program was approved to do 30 slots for the LVN to RN transition program, but we also got the Associate Degree of Nursing, the 2-year RN program, what was called generic program, approved, and that could take 20 students. So we're looking at 50 students, and we probably had well over 100 applicants. So we quickly filled those slots and quickly started the program for them. So we've had now 2 generic, the LVN to RN transition students, 2 classes graduate, and 1 of the associate degree 2-year programs just graduated this May also. And with very few exceptions, they're all employed right here in this area. They're either here in San Angelo, and almost all of those students had more than 1 job offer even before they took their nursing test, the NCLEX test for RN, for their certification. They'd already had job offers. So we were ecstatic with the success of the program.
So it sounds like the city provided some seed money up front that has led to the success of the program. Do you anticipate at some point educating more than 50 prospective nurses a year? We
would love to. Really, our limitation at this point is space and funding for faculty, because you need to have, there's like 1 faculty member for 10 students, so it's a very high ratio or low ratio number of students to a faculty. So we really need, our challenge would be funding for additional faculty to do that and additional space. We are, all the nursing programs at the St. John's campus of Shannon, we lease space from them, and that's a wonderful place for us to do that. Being a former full-fledged hospital, it's a great place to have those kinds of classes there. And we do a huge clinical time with Shannon, and so it would be wonderful to be able to expand that. And again, just more space, more faculty, and figuring out how to fund that. But it was really, the first year was $150,000 between the TWC and the city. We were doing so well with our plan and our timeline with what we were doing that they were able to write for a second year and got an additional, between the two, another additional $150,000. So we were showing that we were using the money wisely and that we were developing what we said we would do.
Now, more recently, the city and Howard College have partnered on a construction trades program, something totally different than nursing. Do you think the experience with the nursing school helped make the partnership with the construction trade program possible, or maybe even just easier?
Oh, I'd definitely say easier, because with the RN program, we were struggling of where are we going to find this, and it was looking for something and trying to find one. This time we knew there was this type of grant through TWC. So it was going back to find out, okay, do they still have that available? How much can you ask for? What would it be? So this was a whole effort again, though, that came from the community. Michael Biggerstaff was the president of the Home Builders Association of San Angelo at the time. He came to us and said, we have a huge shortfall in the trades, and we're an aging group, and so we're going to have even a bigger problem. And we really want to partner with Howard College to see what we can do. Can we create a trades program? So we instantly were like, hey, we're definitely interested. Let's get a committee together, because it's going to also take funding for this, so let's talk about that. So everybody came to the table. We had an exploratory committee. They met for probably a little over a year, putting all the things together to know what we needed. And we had our workforce board at the table, and we had the city at the table. We had a lot of business partners from construction trades there, because it wasn't just advising us about, you know, okay, what do we need? Okay, what is it really going to take to start this program? It was also, what do we want to see in the curriculum? How long do we want the program to be? What do you want them to learn? In developing that program with us. And so during that time frame, we put a complete budget together. We knew that we had plenty of classroom space, but we did not have lab space for construction trades. We have construction trades on our campus right now, but it's dual credit. It's SAISD's program, but it's full. And so to add adult students to the program, there's just no way. So what were we going to do if we were going to have adult classes? And so we needed a metal building, basically. And so we had Michael Biggerstaff and his company, Sunbelt Construction. They were great. They designed a building for us and worked with Mueller's to design it, size, how did we need to lay out for everything that you needed for it, for what type of equipment we'd have in the shop. It has 2 outdoor covered areas, so you can have 2 projects going on outside for 2 different classes, but it also has indoor bays. And so they did everything from the design phase. And I think it was a whole effort by the Home Builders Association, by Michael Biggerstaff, by even the Texas Builders Association, or their foundation. They were involved through this whole process. So everybody came together to make this work. Again, we came up with the budget. The Workforce Board wrote for a $100,000 grant. And we had our tool, basically it was for our program director and for our tools and equipment, because the effort that was led by Mike Biggerstaff was to get all of the money donated, either materials donated or labor donated, to completely build our building. And he achieved that. We did write a grant to the San Angelo Health Foundation. They put in money to finalize the little bit that we still needed on the metal building itself and for the concrete. Our foundation added money to it. The Home Builders Association itself donated money. So all of these funds came together, but we were still going to need about $268,000. So our Workforce Board wrote for $100,000, and I was just hopeful that the CUSA DC would be able to match again. So we got that grant. Not only did they match, but they did the balance that we needed, which was $168,000. So we have been buying equipment, storing it on site, because our building's not quite ready, but our classes started August the 22nd. So we're so thrilled to have that new partnership. And what we really hope for next fall is to also talk to the outlying communities, to the smaller schools around our area, that those students could potentially drive in for a program, that we could actually even add another dual credit class where some of the outlying youth would have an opportunity to be in a program next fall. But we have the program that started in August. We'll have another start in January. And so they're going to learn a lot in really not a very long time. It will take them about probably at least 3 semesters, maybe 4 to finish. The end goal will be that the class will be building a tiny house. It'll be a tiny house on wheels. One of the things we got in the grant were 2 trailers, specially made for and designed for the tiny house. And so each class will finish with that as their last project, and then they will have a work experience. And so they will have plumbing and electrical, HVAC experience, everything from cabinetry to framing. They'll have an experience with all of that. And then they can also go from there if they want to specialize in something. We have a full HVAC program, so if you want to go in and really learn all the ins and outs of residential and commercial heating and cooling, you can go into that program as well. So it really sets a great foundation, though, for so many venues where we need people working right now in this community.
And so I just want our viewers to be clear, the reason that the Development Corporation for the city has gotten involved in this is this obviously leads to job creation. You have
Absolutely.
nurses now out in the field,
Yes.
new jobs, and soon you will have a building construction trade folks who are doing the same thing. So I just want to make that clear as to why the city is actually involved in these sort of programs. So it's sort of interesting. You saw a need for nurses in the community and responded to that with a program. You saw a similar need in construction trades and have responded with that with a program. Do you have any other such offerings in the works right now that respond specifically to local community needs?
We do, and it's a segment I think sometimes we forget about. St. Angelo has a large number of nonprofit organizations. There's probably over 400, and if you look at the Area Foundation and what they've done in the day, they have the Day of Giving, and you see how many nonprofit organizations are participating in that. We were looking at it and going, you know, what are we providing for training for nonprofit organizations? Do they need board training? Do they need executive director training? Do they need marketing? What do they need? So not being presumptuous, we're never going to do that to say, what do you need? We met with Tom Early and Matt Lewis from 2 foundations to talk to them because they interact with so many nonprofits. What do you think? Oh, we really believe in this. We really think that we do have that, and we are missing a whole segment of business that we're not providing development opportunities. And for a nonprofit, it's really hard to have the funds to be able to send somebody out of town to some kind of workshop or seminar. And so those 2 organizations believe so heavily in this that they both actually awarded $40,000 each for over a 3-year period for us to develop workshops for nonprofit organizations. So we're very close to having our first one, and actually it's really designed now, and probably the marketing piece will go out for it this week. But we did a focus group. It was really like, okay, we've got all this information, but let's get a focus group. And we probably had about 35 different organizations represented at that focus session. And they gave us the priorities. Where do you want training? What's the most important to you? If you prioritized it, what would you want the first 5 topics to include? And we took that information and then went back and really worked on that to say what's going to be the most valuable for them. Let's make sure we find the right presenters, the right people that we can bring into the community and help us to create this workshop for them. So we've taken all their feedback, put that together, and then are developing these sections off of that. We hope to have 1 a quarter for the
one of these
years.
nonprofit workshops?
Exactly, and hit the topics that are the priority to those organizations. And it's really important if you think about it, because some of those organizations are serving some of the most neediest families in our community. So it only behooves us as a city to make sure that theirs is the best that they can be at the services they're providing. So we really felt like this was an area that we really weren't serving, and it would be a huge opportunity to work with that whole segment of our community and provide something new, and that will really benefit them as well. So it's constant feedback, it's constant listening, and do you hear something over here, or oh, is there a group we're missing? We watch the high demand job list from the workforce board constantly. What's on that? Is it something we could create? Are we missing something? But we look for chances like this and other organizations to help us say, oh, you know, you might be missing this. What do you think about, you know, this area? Then we start investigating it. And again, we don't assume what someone needs, we ask and find out what is it that you want. Let us work with you to develop it and to meet your quality standards.
And so I assume that if someone in the community, if a segment of the community has a need, that you're open to listening to that to see if Howard College can somehow respond.
Absolutely. We've met before. I know our workforce board years ago assembled a group of manufacturers that all needed welders. And I know I was definitely not in this role at that time, but we went to that meeting and listened and actually created right now our welding classes that we have. They're on the continuing education side. They're shorter courses. They're all like 33 hours each, but we have 5 different processes that they learn to weld in. It gives them just a foundational skill, but we developed that format of classes based on the feedback from that meeting way back in 2008. And so if, like today, if our welding community say, you know, things have changed, we want just something different, we'd love to sit down with them and say, what's changed? What do we need to do different? Because it's totally based off the feedback that we got before.
Howard College has, of course, experienced remarkable growth over the last few years. In fact, the enrollment here in San Angelo actually outpaces what it is at the main campus in Big Spring now. To what do you attribute that growth and that trend?
Truly, I believe it's that we are about short-term training. We have people that are coming to us that this is, you know, they got out of high school, they went and did some odd jobs, they didn't go on to school, and now they're going, you know, I want to have a profession, I want to go in a direction, and find a direction. And we are a great starting point for that. As a community college, we have an open door policy. If you come and apply at Howard College, we're taking you. And we want you to be there. And so I think it's the open arms kind of attitude, and everyone's welcome. We will, you know, help you find your way. We even have an adult education and literacy department, and in that department, if you didn't get your high school diploma and you want to go back and work toward that, that department is totally funded by grants. And so if you qualify under their programs, they will work with you, and there's no charge to you as the individual. So we take you from that level through your associate's degree. We even help you to know if you know for sure you want to transfer to a 4-year university, then we really work with you on what to take at Howard that will transfer there, so you are not losing credits when you transfer. So we work with you on your scheduling. We actually have an advisor that is shared by ASU and Howard College, and together she can advise if they come in and say, you know, I'm really interested, I want to get my basics here, but then I want to go to ASU. Then we put her in contact with them and start right then on the very first schedule. What are we going to do so we maximize it for the student to give them the best value? So I think, one, we're a very good value. It's shorter term training. Sometimes I think people want to see a return sooner than later. And so there's programs that you can take you can take a CDL course for 6 weeks and then go and be employed as a CDL driver.
A commercial
driver's license, yes. And that's a huge demand occupation, not only in San Angelo, but across the state and across the nation. And so we've got short-term programs that really can get you into a profession that pays a very good wage.
And for someone who's looking to, like you said, get their basics out of the way and then progress to a 4-year degree, like you said, you offer a lot of value, and it may not be quite as intimidating an environment for someone who doesn't feel like perhaps they're the strongest student, or maybe coming back to higher education after a long break from high school.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it is true that we have maybe smaller classes. It's more kind of one-on-one type an environment, and we do have those comments from students. It's like, they're intimidated by going to school, and so they're afraid, can I really do this? And we have so many services. We have great tutoring departments, so we have tutoring services for free for students. There's so many things that we do to really help you to be successful as a student, and so really, there's no reason to be intimidated. Come out. We can show anyone how to get into Howard and help you find your way.
And as I mentioned at the top of this program, you're one of the lead administrators for Howard College, the San Angelo campus. What's the vision for our local campus now? Where do you see it going and growing?
Well, I will tell you, our foundation was created with a vision to provide for long-term sustainable growth for Howard College here in San Angelo. We went from a very, very small space to a location on Executive Drive to where we are now. And the foundation is really instrumental in that. They purchased the property all behind the West Texas Training Center all the way back to the housing area. So we actually have a master plan that's filed with the city. About 4 years ago was when we built our first two buildings, our student services building and academic building.
And those are beautiful buildings, by the way.
Thank you. And you saw those on the video, and we're very, very proud of those buildings and our start of our campus and our master plan. So we have ample room to add many more buildings behind that as the demand grows. And so we plan to be here for forever. And so when we look at it, we have the space to grow. That growth will be driven by our community and us listening to the needs of our community.
So we've been visiting with Jamie Rainey of Howard College, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.